the gore drinker and everything else, he's still looking pretty good, and that's why we're seeing teams prioritize him. I personally think the LIllia is slightly better, and I like that Tian is going towards this pick. I think she operates so well in these team fights, and sets up so many advantages. You've got so much flexibility with your build as well, whether you want to go for like the Zhonya's and the Banshees, or if you want to go towards Moonstaff, or you want to go towards just Liandry's Anguish and get more damage. Like, there's so many different styles to LIllia that it can pretty much function in any sort of team.
This is only going to be the second Samira game that we see from Lwx this split. He's been playing a ton of Kai'Sa, but then when it's not been Kai'Sa, it's been Aphelios, it's been Xayah. So I'm excited to see what Lwx can pull out on this aggressive pick. The Tristana, though, comes through for Jiumeng. He's only played it twice this split, but importantly, this was banned by FPX in game number 1. Respect towards Jiumeng. Certainly can do well at just out all-inning the Samira.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, really good for the all-in, but certainly gives that safety as well. Like, if she jumps in, you just hop out. Like, you can avoid and just play at range so well with this Tristana. And pairing this with the Alistar as well is amazing, because chances are you're looking towards something like the Leona coming through for FPX here to pair with that Samira, and Alistar does so well. We've seen it numerous times now across multiple regions where Leona goes in, you get the headbutt up from the Alistar and you bonk her underneath the turret, and she's kind of like, oh god, I regret everything. So I like this combo from WE, setting up for a strong bot lane, which, as we heard in the interview, that's what FPX want to punish. So the fact that you've got a nice bot lane here for WE sets them up pretty well for dealing with FPX.
A little bit of respect up towards this top side here as the ban onto Aurelia. Taking that away from Breathe has been the priority now for FPX. Might be worth banning something like the Camille as well, because Camille has been one of the consistent bans across the course of today. It's still currently open, and Breathe, if you want to see sick Camille play, just watch a game where Breathe is playing it, because the man is a menace.
Yeah, I could definitely see FPX going for that ban here. I'm also looking towards, like, I know it's not going to happen, but like, I want to see like Yasuo come back to deal with this Nara. I used to be such a big fan of watching Yasuo's just jumping all over the lane, jumping on top of Nara's, but he needs kind of a lot more setup, so I don't think we'll be seeing it. But as you said there, Camille going to be banned away. From FPX's point of view, I imagine they're just going to lock in something like that Nara in the top lane for Nuguri, especially with so many of these weird picks gone. Sorry, the counter picks gone for FPX. The other one that stands out to me is like the Jayce potentially here in the top lane for Breathe, but it doesn't really fit with the composition that WE have right now.
Thing is, if a Nara is picked up for Nuguri, Breathe can just play Gangplank. He's already played 3 games of Gangplank this split. He looks pretty fantastic on Gangplank. It offers you late game insurance. Like, feels like a pretty great pick if the Gnar does come on through, but we'll have to wait and see what's locked in on the side of FPX before we make any conclusions. They still need both of their solo lanes.
Looks like they're actually going to give the counter pick to Nuguri. So Ryze is going to be locked in for Doinb Blind. There's a lot of mid laners that are still open, so I don't really feel like for Shanks you're in too much of an issue. So I'm surprised to see them go for that. I honestly expected to just go for the blind for Nuguri, but looks like now instead Tian could potentially look to play through that top lane with Doinb on this Ryze as well, try and set these plays up, or even play off through this bot lane as well, trying to just get this Samira snowballing.
That's going to be a Jayce locked in. I think that's going up towards Breathe in the top side. It's one of those picks that can do exceptionally well into the Gnar. And guess what? There's still a lot of mid laners available. We talked about Shanks being potentially a great Azir player. We're yet to discover it. We're yet to see it here in the LPL, but it fits within the category of champions you'd expect to be in Shanks' pool. So I'm excited to finally see that. It was banned in game number 1, but we get to see it this time.
I'm curious to see if FPX do go for this adjustment here. You're looking at a team composition for WE that really wants to play at range, where you're tossing axes, accelerate shock blast, and the Azir just poking you away. So they do go for the Lucian. So instead, FPX go, right, we can't team fight this. We're just going to look to outsplit push you. So Nuguri now on this Lucian. I will expect Tian to be playing heavily towards getting this Lucian ahead, getting Doinb ahead as well, and then trying to play at the map through the side lanes rather than opting in towards WE's strategy, which is just poke them down as they get towards team fights.
All right, so what's the answer in the early game from WE? You said that Tian wants to play towards the top side. Are we just going to see a completely mirrored situation where Beishang tries to get Jiumeng ahead?
I honestly think, yeah, you go down towards this bottom lane, you've got Azir, who'll have high priority in this mid lane over the Ryze, can shove in pretty effectively there. You can then play towards dragons, and getting these early dragons forces FPX to actually play towards you, to force you into these team fights, and that's where WE can look to strike. So I think from WE side, it's trying to somewhat keep this top lane safe, but certainly start that snowball before FPX can really take over the game.
Well, FPX have been known for taking over these games, but with the jungle substitution coming on in Tian, has his work cut out for him. I'm excited for the bot lane 2v2 as well, though, because my goodness, Lwx and Crisp have been looking amazing recently, but in game number 1, it's Jiumeng and Missing who have come out on top, and it felt like with this Alistar, Missing was looking real good in the previous game. Or in fact, it was Missing on the roll, wasn't it? But this 2v2 is an explosive one. Both Samira and Tristana can take over a game if they get ahead, and they will both be trying to do exactly that.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to watch. It feels like whoever kind of gets this lead in the early game has the potential to just completely run away with this. And then your eyes start to drift towards Beishang and drift towards Tian, and how much work they can get done in these early stages to facilitate the snowball both teams want to work with.
So a ward dropped over, though, by Beishang. Yeah, so we talk about the two junglers that can influence the game. They kind of tiptoe around each other. Both drop themselves a ward, both recall, and both grab themselves a sweeper. So very standard starts from our junglers. You see Beishang moving up to start on his blue buff here. So he'll be going topside, pathing down. And we're yet to see which direction Tian will go. Obviously, Beishang will have full information. He's got the ward on red buff, so he'll know wherever Tian goes. And it looks like Tian going to start on his own blue buff. So we are having opposite paths from our junglers.
The big thing here for WE, though, is they have full information of this. You got that ward on towards the red, so they'll spot, hey, look, LIllia hasn't started on her Raptors. She hasn't gone towards red. She has to start bot side. We'll know as well, because FPX bot lane will be late to the lane. Whereas when you look at WE's side, FPX have no idea where Beishang started. So this becomes far trickier for them to try and push in this top lane. Try and make sure that Doinb is going to be okay in this mid lane, and not just letting Shanks get full control over these two scuttle crabs.
Bit of a trade on the bottom side as Crisp gets a bit of bomb stacking going on. Doesn't quite hit Lwx as well, but good little trade by Jiumeng and Missing. And this is one of the strengths of Tristana, especially in the early stages. Your bomb amplifies your damage so significantly, and especially with Halo Blades, man, those 2v2 trades are terrifying to play against.
Yeah, I love watching the likes of like an Alistar, Tristana, like an all-in lane like this just gives so much pressure, especially as we talked about. I mean, if you're looking towards these dives on bot lane, maybe with Beishang, you become so potent, especially when Alistar hits level 6. So I wouldn't be surprised when we do get to that point that we see Shanks just roam down, maybe even Breathe DPing in, but certainly the 3-man Beishang, Jiumeng and Missing going aggressive onto Lwx and Crisp.
Well, Beishang, Jiumeng, Beishang, Shanks and Missing is the 3v3 that we heard talked about in the interview earlier on. As Crisp saying that was the way that they've got to defeat WE. And we'll see if that's going to happen, because Shanks, certainly a player that we've been hyping up coming into the LPL. We hyped him up coming out of the LDL, and it had been somewhat disappointing, to be brutally honest, when he came into the league this year. Now we finally get to see him on Azir. He was banned in game number 1. We have yet to see this in the LPL, but it's something that should be his kind of champion. It's probably the strongest control mage in the game right now, and it feels like this should be a game for him to kind of strut his stuff a little bit on the Azir.
Yeah, and you can see it already. I mean, he's moved in there. He actually stopped the back from Doinb, so now actually gets a nicer reset timing for himself. And this is what I talked about earlier, was I love Shanks' early laning phase. He's actually really smart, although as I say that, he's getting ganked in mid.
Oh, flash from Missing there, going for Lwx. The Blade will keep him alive. Crisp now trying to escape as well. Will be okay. That is not even going to be heal used, actually. So only 2 summoners in trade for 3. That's actually positive for FPX. But they will lose a wave under the tower.
Yeah, I think that's the big one, is that you're setting Lwx behind. Top lane, though, Beishang running Nuguri down, and now running Nuguri away.
Beishang runs in, and it's like Looney Tunes or something. The TP comes in, he's like, nope, all the way, turns around 180 degrees.
Put on the Benny Hill music. That's what we need right now. It's just running through the doors. But, I mean, look, you can see this massive wave that's been caught for WE in this bot lane. Lwx will be there to get kind of half of it, but a turret plate going in favor of Jiumeng as well. Jiumeng's going to get such a nice back, and again, remember that level 6 is what we're looking at here for this bot lane. If you can get that all in potential, you're going to be in a fantastic spot. Jiumeng actually opting for the boots though, so what this says to me is that they may not be looking just for dives. They may instead just kind of leave Jiumeng and Missing to their own devices and just let them take turret plates instead. The attack speed is so much better at this.
I don't know if they have the option to just go for plates here. The dive underway. Breathe taking a huge chunk. Beishang is here to help defend his top laner. And I think Breathe will get away from this one. Tian's arrived as well, but the wave is going to be cleared. And Missing is found Tian. They're trying to force a flash out from the enemy jungler here. The axe is coming through, and Tian gets out of dodge. Doinb just doesn't have enough damage yet, as Shanks is moving up as well. He's not level 6 just yet. Good amount of damage there. Crisp has arrived, and it's actually going to be Beishang that's caught out. After all of this, first blood goes the way of FPX, and they want to turn it into another one. But Shanks messes up his flash, but he gets over the blast cone, but he's on a ward. He's spotted over, and Doinb gets the double.
And it looks so good from WE, burning the flash on towards Tian. They should have been able to get away with that scot-free, but unfortunately for them, there's bad movement there coming through from Missing. Walking through river rather than going safely back down towards bot lane means they can catch him out, as Crisp had roamed as well. And now, what should have been a really nice win for WE, that's 1,000 gold lead and 2 kills for FPX.
And this is more like the FPX that I was expecting coming into this series, right? You expect them to snowball off the early game, to find these small windows and punish them. That's the kind of play that we're talking about. WE make these minute mistakes, and Crisp is always there. Crisp is always in the right place on the map to punish the enemy.
And the big thing here as well, 2 kills over towards Doinb. He's going to very quickly start to stack these up. Probably is going to go towards the Rift Maker, although now that I see the Amp Tome and the Sapphire Crystal, he's probably not going towards that build. But either way, he's going to be so far ahead in this mid lane, he can start to get the shove back in favor of Shanks, and it makes it so much easier to unlock Doinb from this mid lane and make more of these roaming plays.
So we Dragon taken by WE though, so good start to the game for them. At very least, they can start to stack the Drakes up. That is certainly a win condition. I mean, I've talked about it all day long. When you got something like an Olaf, you can very much focus on grabbing those Drakes to start things off. But as you rightly say, Doinb on this Ryze, which, let's not forget, is an absolute signature pick for Doinb. The Ryze is very much his bread and butter. Having 2 kills this early on a mid lane mage that scales exceptionally well, that's just real scary for WE. That's just the kind of situation that as a WE fan at home, you got to be sat there biting your nails, because it's really, really hard to deal with. And Ryze is terrifying right now. I don't know if you guys have played against a Ryze recently. They do insane damage.
Yeah, he's just nuts. And honestly, this is where FPX have felt most confident. When Doinb's ahead and can influence the map wherever he wants. Like, they have the highest KDA, they have the highest lead at 15 minutes percentage. They've even got the second highest gold lead at 15. And a lot of that stems from the control Doinb offers, working with Tian, working with Crisp. So the fact that now you've got Doinb in this lead, you can see there, he shoves in, and now they're moving over to get this Rift Herald off of that pressure.
Breathe is positioned pretty aggressively. Nuguri could maybe try and make a play, but I think Breathe wants to all in him. Nuguri knows what's going on, though. The culling comes through, and Nuguri is out of mana, so he can't push it for any more. Will find priority, though, and look towards the Herald. Shanks is here, as is Beishang. Smite fight is going to be the name of the game, and the smite goes through from Tian. Grabs the Herald for himself, grabs the eye, and is trying to get out of here. Breathe doesn't have much mana, or much health, sorry, but he has mana. Can't follow up with any poke. Jiumeng going to shove out the wave mid and just have to head back to the bot side.
Yeah, it does make sure that Doinb loses a bit of CS just for making that play, but should be able to catch this wave and bot. Overall, though, I mean, that play from Nuguri secured the Rift Herald for FPX there, making sure that Breathe can't contest. There's no 3-man that can happen at all. So nice play again from FPX to just use these small advantages that they have to garner further and further leads. Now with this Rift Herald, I'm curious to see where Tian's going to go. You have the argument to try and get like Lwx ahead, who's been struggling a little bit without the attention that we expected from FPX. But as we talked about, like getting Doinb and Nuguri is actually the win condition for FPX. So they may just decide to plunk this down in top lane and get a lot of gold towards Nuguri.
And let's take a second here and talk about how Nuguri is going to function in this team composition as well, because he's playing Lucian. This is a far cry from what Gnar does in a team. And a lot of this year, we've been seeing things like the Gragas, things like the Gnar coming out from Nuguri. He's been like the weak side top laner that just wants to look towards team fights. Lucian ain't that. Lucian wants to carry.
Yeah, but this is where Nuguri's actually happy, right? I mean, he was known for his kleptomancy Vladimir. Like, this was the guy who wanted every bit of gold that was everywhere, anywhere on the map. So the fact that he's going back towards carries doesn't surprise me. And it works very well here because you just end up in this split push role. You can offer a huge amount of damage in team fights thanks to the cull and try and get some return damage down if WE do end up going towards a... or you end up in an actual team fight with WE. But honestly, I just think you just stay side lane. The longer you're able to play off against this Jayce, look for those culls, look to poke them down, try and get these turrets, that's how FPX win.
Oh, Solar Flag goes in, but I mean, that's the safety that you talked about. You mentioned it in the draft. It's really nice to see. Jiumeng can just zip on out of the play as soon as the Solar Flag comes down. Crisp trying to threaten potentially a Zenith Blade here, but he won't be able to find positioning. You mentioned that Nuguri likes gold. Well, how about a Rift Herald onto a tower that already only has 3 plates left? Beishang is here, so the tower won't go down. It will be answered by WE, but it's plenty of gold going into Nuguri's pocket.
You can see the game plans unleashing here for FPX though. So Crisp trying to make these plays bot, they looked a little bit strange. What he's trying to do is burn the cleanse on Jiumeng, so then as Doinb shoves in mid, as you start to have Tian rotate back bot, they could potentially go for a play on towards Jiumeng. Not able to get that though, so instead they just go, right, we'll get this extra gold for Nuguri, who's now in trouble.
Here we go. Beishang moving in. Tian is here as well, and a TP being channeled, but Nuguri's already fallen, and another TP. WE want to take this fight. Doinb will be able to get out with the Realm Warp. Shanks trying to get onto Tian, but not willing to commit the flash to the play here. WE answer with a pick on the top side.
The pick, the gold, and crucially getting these summoner spells out of Doinb as well just gives so much breathing room to WE in this map. So now you don't have to worry about plays bot side, as you can see when Chris goes in, he just goes back out.
Are you sure about that one, Dagda? Because I feel like this is plays on the bot side right now. Lwx stacking up his Inferno trigger. He's at S rank right now, but can he get an S score at the end of the game? He's not going to be able to go for the all-in. And a huge, huge wave pushed under the tower mid once again by Shanks while all of this was going on.
And that's the problem here, is that, look, even if you manage to get, like, the cleanse out of Jiumeng bot, you're still losing gold mid, experience mid, same in this top side as well. That was a massive wave that crashed, giving a little bit of breathing room back over towards Breathe as well in that top lane. So these are the little things that WE are trying to turn in towards advantages, or at least get themselves back into this gold lead. Because when we started off this game at, minute 5, we had 1,000 gold lead for FPX. We're pretty much back to being dead even at this stage.
Well, Drake started up once again, and we talked about what is one of the win conditions for WE, stacking these Drakes. 2 on the trot now, and it's going to be a Mountain Soul, which is fantastic for them, because there's a lot of all-in on the side of FPX. Being able to stack up those resistances will do a lot of work for this squad.
The Mountain Soul is going to be kind of nice for either side. It's, as you said, like, I think it's not a huge one, though, because honestly, when you look at the way the teams are playing, you got, like, Poke from WE just kind of ignores a lot of the soul issues. And then when you're looking at FPX from the split point of view, it's nice kind of in the 1v1, especially for Nuguri. I think that's more so what they're going to be focused on.
I think Breathe was trying to let the tower go down there. I think he was trying to allow the tower to fall while nobody would be able to get the gold for it. Here we go, missing on towards Lwx. The jump away, the flash away, but it's followed with another flash. The Blade Wheel keeps him alive at the last possible second, blocking the auto, and Jiumeng can't ult it. Nicely done by Lwx.
In the meanwhile, though, that top lane turret does eventually go down with Nuguri there to pick up the gold, as he said. Unfortunately, Breathe couldn't let that one just pass away. Now, though, this does open up the question as to what the story is with Breathe. Because he's in a lane now where he could just create this very long lane, and Nuguri can't really overextend, especially when you're looking at Beishang and he's on a Lucian. And at that point, Nuguri just kind of goes, well, what the hell do I do? I can't really go in mid. We don't really have any sort of dive pressure on towards Shanks, again, because Lucian's so squishy. So I'm curious to see if Breed does try and find an opportunity to just freeze this wave in towards his own tower.
Well, I think he's just shoved that out as soon as they saw Nuguri on the bottom side of the map. He just tried to shove the wave away from his side. I'm kind of sad that the tower didn't die there, because that was so 5-head from Breathe.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been such a great moment, because what we think about with Breathe right now, he's a hyped up top laner, but it's just like, this guy is going to 1v1 you. This guy's really good mechanically. But that shows that he's more than just that, right? He's an intelligent player that's going to play the map correctly as well, which is one of the things that we saw from him in game number 1 in the series.
Well, unfortunately for him, this isn't going as well as it did in game number 1 in his LIllia, because he's behind 20 CS, Rift Tower going across as well, so potential here for FPX to try and crack open this mid lane turret. And look at, you can see Nuguri is well aware of the respect he needs to give, but Crisp isn't.
Yeah, Crisp is all but dead here. An axe blocked by the Blade Wheel, but Shanks has soldiers, and Blade Wheel, it can stop axes. It can't stop entire sand people, unfortunately. So Shanks grabbing himself a kill on that one. Crisp, a little disrespectful. Breathe, looking for an all-in. He's on to Doinb, and that's a lot of damage from this Jayce. Conqueror is proc. TP being channeled by Nuguri, but it's denied. Missing on the other side of the map. Will not let anything go wrong. Beishang is here. Jiumeng jumping in as well. They're going to dive onto Nuguri here, but the culling says no. Denies the play. Nuguri survives the bomb. Just not quite enough. Now Herald in the mid lane as FPX want to exploit the side lane pressure.
Yeah, this is so well played from WE to find these advantages. Like, that mid lane turret was going down regardless, but FPX having that turret, or sorry, having that Rift Herald. So instead, they get the kill side, they get the pressure bot. Yeah, that was a bit sad.
Because he's got the soldiers, he can't hit the eye. And so no matter where he stands, he wasn't in auto range of the eye. Oh god, that is that's something. I've never seen that before, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's one of the interactions that really annoys me, because it's just, I can understand, like, it's kind of silly if you just have, like, an Azir stand soldier stand behind the Rift Herald, he's just, like, every time it pops, he just autos it, but that come on, like,
yeah.
kill the damn thing.
Maybe if Azir and the soldier are on the correct side, then you should be able to pop the eye, because,
yeah,
I don't know, that feels like unnecessarily nerfed for Azir, but whatever. We'll move on. We'll move on from this one interaction. Drake's coming up in 40 seconds, Dagda, and WE want to make a play onto Doinb. He realizes what's going off. Realm warps well on out of there. Tian trying to grab a Gromp, but I'm afraid this is no longer your jungle, Sonny Jib. Gallop away to the top side of the map, because this belongs to WE right now.
But WE again looking for these picks as always when they get a lead.
Oh,
but Jiumeng, no!
Ooh, gets away with it. Has to burn his cleanse for that one. At what point do you look at Leona and go, yeah, I can take this. I'm sure she won't Zenith Blade at me. Like, come on, dude. All right, mid tower goes down thanks to Jiumeng's misplay there. WE losing an objective off the back of that one. Jiumeng, a bit of a feast or famine player, but hey, at least they can get priority in the mid lane here and move towards this all-important third Drake. This will be third on the trot here. It's only 3-2 in score, but it feels like there's been a reasonable amount of action regardless. WE will be able to sweep this one up.
Yeah, and a lot of it has been just the back and forth, almost plays that have come through with people just escaping on just the tiniest of health. TP towards the top side though, and Tian's here behind him with Doinb. Shanks, this may have been a disaster.
Shanks just trying to clear the wave so that they can't dive him too effectively. He's going to be put to sleep. The culling, but he has a Zhonya's. He's going to survive this one with the stopwatch. Nicely done by Shanks. Denies the play, keeps the tower alive, and survives it all.
And Beishang is doing jungler things. He's just down in the bot side. He's cleared out all of Tian's jungle, knowing that he's going to lose his entire top side. So, I mean, nice play there from WE to save Shanks and also kind of keep FPX in check because they get the Dragon too. So overall now, WE just wait 4 minutes, they shove out these waves, they stop FPX from being able to contest past River, and they can fight the 5v5 at this Dragon.
That is going to be the big moment, isn't it? When you really think about it. In 4 minutes time, FPX cannot just let this soul go. It's not an option for them. But we're going to be at a point in the game where it's like 2 item spikes, which Tristana and Samira both feeling pretty good on 2 items, right? That's some pretty nice spikes for them. But champions like Breeze's Jayce, for example, 2 items is a huge spike for him. He is going to be terrifying in those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, there's a lot of champions here that are just ridiculous on 2 items. Like, pretty much across the board, I'm just like, these are insanely strong, but there's a pick.
We've got a 2 versus 4, and it's somehow going well for WE. Jiumeng has now arrived. Tian somehow gets out of that one. I'm not quite sure how he survived that, but now Crisp is the target as he's getting low. Solar Flare to disengage the fight. We keep on seeing these weird fights today, Dagda, where nothing's actually up, and the teams are just like, you know what, let's go for it. And then no one dies anyway somehow. Bombs down in the mid lane, as WE will be able to get a tier 1 off the back of the play.
I like that fight from WE though. They identified, look, Nuguri bot side, he's got no TP. This is 4 versus 5. Nearly pick Tian, and if you do so, well, hell, that's either the mid lane turret or potentially even a Baron, depending on how many kills you pick up. So I like that WE are trying to use these advantages and find just small windows of opportunity, because that is the way you beat FPX.
God, this feels so tense, Dagda. This feels so tense, this game. It's 3-2 on the scoreboard as we break past the 20-minute mark. And even though, like, coming into this one, in my mind, FPX were big favorites, but this substitution in the jungle is hurting them, I think it's fair to say, comparatively to the form that they were on. Like, for anyone that didn't see any FPX games before the break, like, they're still playing fine, but they were playing like one of the best teams in the world kind of level before the break. Does feel like they've been slowed down a little bit, but WE also have leveled up coming into this game. Jiumeng now finishing a 2nd item as well is going to be absolutely huge in these upcoming fights. It's 2 minutes on the Drake. Dagda, I'm gonna put you on this spot here. Have you got a favorite for this game at this point? Because I'm thinking it's very even. We'll have to come back to that. Because Tian's in trouble. Realm Warp comes in, though. He doesn't need an ambulance after all. It's Missing that needs an ambulance. Solar Flare comes in. Jiumeng over the wall, trying to push away Nuguri. Doinb on 1 HP, but Jiumeng can't quite get into range. It was so damn close. And another fight where it all kicks off over nothing, and nobody dies.
I know, but they're so damn close, and this is what I mean about this game. When we started off, you kind of were like, oh, well, who's your favorite? This is a game that is going to explode one way or the other. One team fight win, and with how close these compositions are, like strength-wise, it becomes really hard to just say, oh yeah, well, it's going to be FPX, it's going to be WE. It will come down to one fight, and whoever wins that will get full control and be able to play towards the strengths of their composition. That's why we're seeing them trying to eke out any sort of advantage they can, because even the players realize how close this is going to be.
That's a very political answer from you there, Dagda. I think it's going to be WE, mate. I think it's going to be a 2-0.
Dagatron for president 2020, whatever. I don't know.
You're just going to speak with confidence. It doesn't matter about reasoning. It's about confidence. Here we go. Drake in 30 seconds, though. Keep your eyes on Jiumeng. Keep your eyes on Shanks. They're both on 2 items now. But if Lwx can stack up, maybe he can make something happen with his ulti. But it feels like WE, the ones that are a little bit braver right here, is FPX having to retreat from the play a little bit. They don't have much in the way of a front line. It's really difficult for FPX to move in towards WE.
And this is the range that we were talking about for WE. Like, this is why you needed FPX to play through a side lane. But with the confidence WE have and nobody really able to force them back, FPX are in a bad spot. Crisp, though, looking for the flank alongside Lwx. This is how you play against this. Try and corral them, but you're 1v1.
He's gone so deep on this one, but the realm warp, maybe they can save him. The bomb comes in, but they're too late to the play. Now the rest of the squad has arrived. 4v5 missing, tanking the culling, but the double knockup comes out from the Alistar. Tian on this side trying to look for a smite here. He doesn't want the fight, he just wants the dragon. Jiumeng threatening the engage. In goes Shanks, and it's beautiful to see. Jiumeng knocks Lwx away, can't quite finish the kill, but he goes down anyway. It's complete chaos, but Doinb, last one to fall, and Beishang, the only one left on the map.
Beishang barely able to survive on the back of that. Crisp going way too deep, and it means that WE have got that mountain dragon, they've got the soul, and they are now in control.
Huge fight for WE and also for Breathe. I didn't quite get to see what was happening in the action, but he picked himself up a triple kill. We talked about the 2-item spike on the Jayce, and he hit it like a train.
Yeah, this was so close to going either way, though. And unfortunately for Crisp, he thought the realm warp would come in a little bit sooner, but that slight delay means that Shanks, who's pretty damn big at this stage off of the 2 items, is able to burst him down. FPX aren't in a position to follow, and just the sheer numbers advantage means that WE can win that fight.
Magnificent fight from WE. It was about as close as it could have possibly been. And let's take another look, because suddenly the entire goon squad arrives from FPX on the realm warp.
And the funny thing is, Doinb's the only one who didn't take it. So Doinb ends up coming in. Now, it's a good idea because you're always worried about missing, just getting a massive combo. But here, this is the difference maker. Nuguri flashes away from the Emperor's Divide. He gets so much damage off in this pit. Lwx barely surviving gets the double kill here as well. Like, this is a game of not even inches, it's millimeters that separate this fight. Jiumeng, though.
Jiumeng buffers the jump. Realm warp. In goes Crisp. He's going to have to tank up for a while, but he's just not tanky enough to survive that one. Missing denies the players. Tian goes in, looking for the sleep. Jiumeng buffers the jump once again. Nicely done. Shanks disengaging as Lwx goes for the Inferno trigger. He's on to Breathe in the back line, who's just about surviving. Now Doinb on the front line, trying to get onto Missing. Jiumeng going to be the last man standing once Nuguri gets one more auto in. Double comes through, and Jiumeng finds himself alone. Breathe off towards the top side, but there's no way he can get back for the fight here. Might be able to find the all-in onto Nuguri if he's not careful. Look at damage out from this Tristana. Lwx couldn't help his top laner.
They're so close, these fights, though. FPX just about getting Crisp in to kind of kick things off, force WE to turn, and because they're using these realm warps so cleverly, like using them as a gap closer for Crisp, it means WE are forced to fight. They can't just play at range, they can't keep FPX away, and that was the big issue that I saw with this FPX composition.
Baron being started by FPX. There's 3 men on it already. Crisp arriving here. Jiumeng needs to contest in some way, but it's down to 2,000 already. The Baron is about to be taken here by FPX. They don't have a smite, but they're taking it anyway. Nuguri grabs that one for himself. Doinb stuck in the pit. Manages to flash out. FPX daylight robbery right here. They snag the Baron and they get out scot-free.
I cannot believe FPX got away with that. The fact that they managed to get that Baron, and even the fact that Samira is still able to dash to her own allies means that Lwx gets out of that pit. That should have been a dead Samira, but either way, they now have that. The Elder is up in 3 minutes though. So basically at this stage, FPX just pop into that 1-3-1. They send Nuguri and Doinb off to spread this Baron around in every single lane, try and create as much pressure on the map for WE, and make sure that there's no way WE have control of the map for this Elder Dragon.
They've got 3 minutes to exact that game plan, and you can bet that they're going to use that Baron to full effectiveness. We kept on talking earlier about how FPX, they're like a boxer. They look for these small weaknesses and then throw in the haymaker to finish off the fight. Well, that was the small weakness. They grabbed themselves the Baron in 2.5 minutes, despite the fact they have had 0 Drake control this entire game. That Elder can go either way, and if FPX can grab it, WE's hopes and dreams of a 2-0 over one of the tournament favorites will be shattered before them.
WE are doing a really good job at the moment, though, of stopping FPX from getting value out of this Baron. Like, they've just shoved in mid. There's no waves putting pressure on them in top and bot. So this Baron hasn't really achieved too much for FPX. And as long as WE are able to still contest this Elder in a minute, well, just under 2 minutes, they're in good shape.
Yeah, luckily for WE, the Baron will expire about 30 seconds before Elder comes up onto the map. So they'll at least be able to regain control of their side lanes and shove those waves out before the Elder. But it should at least buy FPX the control of the pit. Like you can see right now, they've got tons of vision around there. They have control of this portion of the map. A couple of resets came through though from Lwx and Tian, which could be the opportunity for the squad of WE to push out a little bit, clear out some of these waves, clear out some of the pressure that's being thrown their way, and maybe make a play. It looks like they're trying to set up for an engage. Don't think they're quite going to be able to find it though.
Yeah, the big thing for this team fight is that Missing doesn't have his flash available, and I'm not sure when it is coming up, but
Chem Tank's there. Oh, that was as close as it's possible to get. Missing knows it as he throws up the angry minion, and he will be able to walk away, I believe. But Tian is on the chase this time around. Chris trying to close the gap, trying to find a way into the play here. But you have to keep your eyes on Shanks as well, because he's got those 2 items. This is a big Azir. If he can get a big ult off, it can turn the fight on its head.
The big thing here, though, again, is kind of looking at the approach towards this dragon. Now, it's up in 30 seconds. Doinb won't have Realm Warp available. And when we look at the last successful fights for FPX, it's been crisp Realm Warping in to try and start these fights. With that down, WE now have the opportunity to just use the range advantage that they have, try and poke FPX off of this dragon before it kicks off.
Beishang moving in. 10 seconds on the Elder Drake. There are so many carries in this game, it's impossible to say one player to keep your eyes on because there's just so much pop-off potential across these two squads. 5v5 it is. Elder started by FPX here. Just going to be aggroed and they'll take a couple of hits onto it. Beishang moving into the pit. Should be able to clear that ward at very least. Culling used onto Jiumeng here, but doesn't land that many of the shots, so it's not going to be too consequential. Check out the DPS meter at the bottom of the screen. That is swanky production. Bravo. 6,000 on the Elder Drake. Swirl Seeds going wide here as it's just constantly being DPS. Solar Flare goes wide as well. Maybe that's the opportunity. Missing goes in, finds the 2-man knockup. Lwx has played well, but it's going to be Doinb going on the last possible second. This looks like a WE fight, but there's the Infinite Trigger. It's not enough. FPX are torn asunder as Nuguri, last man standing, cannot contest. There's no smite here though. Maybe there's time for a miracle, but Elder goes down. One more hit would finish it, and Missing wants himself a piece of the action. Year of the Ox, baby, says the cow. And down the mid lane they will go.
And WE play that so well. They play at range, they poke, they prod, they make sure that they're getting Tian nice and low. And the second they do, Missing gets that beautiful engage with Elder now on the cards for WE. Waves being pushed in their favor. This is looking like WE might be able to take this 2-0 against FPX.
This is looking pretty good for WE. Another tower taken. They are going to reset, and importantly so, because they cannot afford to throw away this advantage. But Baron will be up shortly, and they'll have Elder for the fight.
Yeah, and watch here. WE are doing such a good job of poking. Crisp gets put to half health, and the second they see that Solar Flare Missing goes in, sets up beautifully, and there's so much damage going on to the carries of FPX there that there's nothing they can do. Lwx tries to make the hero play with the Inferno trigger, but there's just not enough damage, especially with that Azir just shutting down any sort of answer. Now you've got the Elder Dragon on WE. You have Baron in 25 seconds. WE can look to use this Elder, get that Baron, and close out this game.
I just love that even in a fight that's that one-sided for WE, Jiumeng just feels it a little bit too much, tries to 1v1 Nuguri at the end and just gets wrecked. It's like, Jiumeng is an exceptional AD carry on some days, and other days it just goes a bit awry. That was just like one of the most Jiumeng plays I think I've ever seen. But enough about Jiumeng. Baron is on the cards. Elder still in the pocket of WE for another 45 seconds, which means FPX have no answer to this Baron play. Their answer instead is to try and move towards the mid lane, but this wave will be cleared. It will be intercepted by WE. And FPX, they've just got to try and hold for 30 seconds. Clearing that mid wave was genius by them.
Yeah, you got to now wait for this next wave to walk up, but I mean, honestly, you got the Baron here as WE. You're fine. That's what you needed Elder for. Now you can start to put pressure onto the base. And as we talked about with the range, especially like Jiumeng hitting level 16, Shanks on this Azir, it becomes very difficult for FPX to actually deal with any sort of long-term siege that Shanks and WE can offer.
Shanks going to be sieging on the top side, and you can see the rest of WE cutting off access to their mid laner, just denying within this jungle and giving Shanks all the room he needs to make these plays onto the towers. That's 2 towers now taken by him, and he's got triple cannons going with a Baron buff. That's a lot of siege damage available from the side of WE right here, except one of them is taken down by the Squirrel Seed. Nicely done there by FPX. But now a mid-wave pushing as well.
If Jiumeng gets to touch this tower, though, it's gone. Like, you've got 2 cannons there, and Jiumeng, if he manages to open fire, this is a done deal. So you've got FPX that basically always have to match where Jiumeng is, which means, honestly, Shanks can get a lot of work done by himself. So this is going to be on Doinb to set up this play nice and early with the Realm Warp, so they don't just lose it all.
And look how much damage the 2 cannons have already done. The inhib tower is basically gone at this point. A couple more autos from Jiumeng. Jumps out with his life. The satchel charge finishes the tower. And now they can look towards inhibs. Shanks goes in and forces FPX away. Another objective taken by WE. Slow and steady wins the race for them as they break open the mid lane as well. And FPX look like they're out of answers. They look like they're out of sorts right now. Tian trying to find a flank, trying to find a way in, but there is no way in.
Now, there's little that they can do. This is where WE's composition just has everything in their favor. That one fight at Elder is now snowballing out of control, and they still have 50 seconds on Baron, but think about the amount of goals they've just got, the amount of pressure on the map they've gotten. Yeah. And you've got a minute 50 until that next Elder, with both inhibitors down top, a single inhibitor tower standing bot lane. WE can easily look to finish this one out.
And the really scary thing is, as you just mentioned, minute and a half on Elder. Well, they've got the top 2 inhibitors, and oh my days, the damage from the bombs. Nuguri kicked out of his own base here, sent back into the fountain. That's 3 inhibs. There's Elder up in a minute and a half, but hang on. Sleepy trouble time as Jiumeng will be able to survive at very least and just throws an auto out. I got a little bit excited. There was 3 people fell asleep, but turns out it was actually just resident sleeper.
Either way, like, it was a nice attempt. Missing with the bodyguard, though, keeping people away. There's no Baron left here.
I don't think Jiumeng cares. I think he wants to take some towers right here. He's feeling himself, and it didn't work out for him in the last fight, but you know what? I'm okay to watch this one. Realm Warp coming out. Nobody's going to actually take it in the end. Oh, Crisp went in it at the last possible second. Shanks with the Zonyas to keep himself alive. Crisp will be the first one to go down. Nuguri on the top side of the fight. Chased out by Jiumeng. A bit of vengeance for the Dragon fight. In goes Lwx, but he's taken down. The Shuriman wall comes through, and WE will take themselves a much-needed victory. They thwart their loss streak, and they thwart FPX.
WE have come out and done what a lot of people were thinking was going to be impossible. Beating FPX in a 2-0 fashion, ending the 6 series win streak that FPX had been on, and so well played by WE. They looked incredible in this game. Their control of the map from the early stages, thanks to Beishang, working and playing around Breathe, making sure he's not falling behind, and then getting to these team fights where they're able to outperform FPX.
And you know, my mind is a little bit boggled here, Dagda, because whoever sat down and said, you know what, WE are going to win today by controlled macro gameplay. That ain't WE. WE's known for winning through just pure teamfight prowess and just chaos in the mid game, right? Forcing these 5v5s, but not anymore. This is a team that is growing with time. They had a few losses before Chinese New Year. It was rough for them, but now taking on FPX, this is a statement win for WE, both in terms of gameplay style and in terms of showing that they are deserving of the top 4 spot that they currently have in the standings.
Yeah, and that is insane. Like, the fact that they could come out so confidently after the Chinese New Year, after, like, we highlighted the mistakes that they were making with Jiumeng and missing, going over aggressive in the bottom lane, not respecting cross map plays. We got Beishang, who hasn't really had the impact that we were hoping from him, and even then Shanks having some weird kind of team fights this was a much more invigorated, this was a far better WE coming into this series. Their team fights were on point. Jiumeng and Missing were actually winning in this second series on that bottom side of the map. Like, these are the things that I really wanted to see. And the fact they're doing so against teams like FPX, against bot lanes like LWX and Chris, fills me with a little bit of hope for WE that they can right the ship and get themselves into the position that we wanted them from in the start of the split.
It feels really good to watch WE play at this caliber as well, because felt like they had the better team composition at the end of the day. Despite how close some of these fights were, ultimately they were the ones coming out on top. But Shanks performing, I think, is the most important takeaway from the side of WE, because the rest of the team we already knew could perform, right? We already knew that they had the capability to really step up. Shanks was hyped, but kind of disappointing to start this split off. Now we've seen his Cassiopeia, and it looked about as good as we expected it to. His Azir as well is pretty fantastic. It wasn't like the greatest Azir in the world, but he ticked the boxes, you know, got some good ults off, had great damage across the game. Really, really impressive stuff from the mid laner. His Orianna, we already know, can be exceptional. We've seen his Zoe starting to look good, so it's like, oh, suddenly, this Orianna one trick that we're all worried about, maybe he actually has a champion pool.
And can I just give credit to the WE coach? Because having the balls to say, yeah, Jiumeng, you can have Tristana. Of all champions to give Jiumeng, who likes to just randomly jump on in. That was probably the bravest call I've seen the entire way through this series. That was the riskiest one, but it paid off big time.
It's not risky at all, because he can just go cleanse, and it means he can just jump in, and he'll get his auto reset off of the bomb because he's got Hail of Blades. He just jumps in, gets the bomb, and then he can jump out again, and he's safe. So, turns out it was actually a safe pick for Jiumeng, because he's going to go in whichever AD carry you pick. So at least this one's got a jump to get out again.
That is true. That is true. Either way, though, it worked out fantastically for them. And I got to give a lot of credit to, like, what we talked about early on the analyst desk was testing the defenses. FPX will constantly be moving around the map, trying to see where you're weak, figure out how they can try and prod just that little bit too far, get that little bit more gold for themselves. And when we played in this game, Beishang turned around and were like, no, this is not going to happen. Like, he protected Breathe from the get-go in this game to make sure that you couldn't go for this 3-man dive on top side. Then they're ready for any sort of plays on the bottom side. When we start to get Doinb making these weird realm warp plays, it's Beishang who's there as well. So, like, honestly, I got to give due to Beishang because he controlled Tian for the entirety of this game and made it so difficult for FPX to actually get those early leads and snowball out of control like we know we can.
Yeah, and that's the thing is FPX, when they've found these wins, it has generally been snowballing. Now, I don't want to start a narrative of like snowball or nothing for FPX because we've already seen multiple comebacks from this team. This is very much a team that, I mean, just look how close those fights were.
Yeah,
WE had Soul the entire game, pretty much. Like, they got Soul very, very early on. It was like the 25-minute mark or something. So a lot of these fights were with Soul in favor of WE, and they were still exceptionally close team fights. So even when even when FPX are behind, they can definitely team fight exceptionally. But the really, really powerful wins generally have been when they can snowball in the early game. WE showing that if you can match them in the early game, it's going to give FPX a much, much harder time moving forwards.
Yeah, and look, there's obviously the question of Tian versus Bo, but this doesn't depart from how good WE looked. I'm really glad to see WE coming back onto the bandwagon because this was a team I kind of had, pushing top 6 when I came into the split, especially when we had like Breathe coming into the roster. I thought Shanks was going to definitely grow over the course of the split and really become a powerhouse mid laner. And we're starting to see inklings of that, as we talked about with like the Azirs, the Cassiopeias and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So maybe this 2 weeks has actually done a lot, but again, we got to wait and see because it's all well and good to be like, oh my God, they're back. WE are amazing. Let's go. We got to give them time. Let's figure out how the rest of this week is going to go. But certainly when you look at like, I was just trying to have a look there at their scores when we're thinking about. Stop. What I'm about to do is say it's actually pretty good because when you think about like the top teams that we expect them to challenge, they've beaten B5, they've beaten IG, now they've beaten FPX as well. Like that's a lot of those really tough teams that they have actually managed to pick up wins against. So when you're looking towards that top of the bracket, in theory, they should have a pretty good time of getting there.
the big question, and one of the exciting things for WE and their future, is that two of the big teams that they're going to have to prove themselves against, Top Esports and EDG, are both in week 10. So they don't get their final challenge until right before playoffs. So there's they've got a little bit of a break for themselves because they've got E-Star, they've got LGD, OMG, Suning, BLG. Like obviously Suning and BLG are a little bit more of a competition, but some relatively easy matches coming their way. And then the big names are going to be saved until our final week of LPL. And that is going to be some banger games that we get to see for ourselves. But there's still, honestly, EDG is one of the teams that still actually has quite a few of the other top teams to face off against. So there's still a lot of really exciting matchups coming up.
Yeah, and I think that's the big one, is just there's so many insanely strong teams in the LPL right now. Yeah. But either way, I think WE definitely cementing themselves as one of those incredibly strong teams with the win here today.
Well, JDG had overtaken WE in the standings because of their win today, and now WE, managing to get themselves a win, have retaken their spot as the 4th place team in the LPL. With that said, though, let's take a look at our MVP. It's going to be Breathe in this one on the Jayce, managing to get the triple kill in that all-important fight for the Elder Drake.
And this could have been a disaster of a game for Breathe. Like, he was the person that FPX were gunning for. They wanted to set him behind, but he was able to avoid any sort of threat, had Beishang there to support him, and this is what this guy is capable of when he gets onto a carry. He looked absolutely insane. Huge amount of damage coming in these team fights. The burst was on point, and as he said, the triple kill just to put the little cherry on top for his performance.
Really nicely done. And we get a replay of that particular triple kill. Keep your eyes on Breathe. He's just at the Scuttle Crab, gets the shock blast in, and then finishes off Nuguri, able to get the last kill of the fight as well. It was really beautiful stuff coming out from Breathe. And, you know, I mean, that fight was pure chaos. Let's be totally honest about it. Beishang literally being the only one surviving. This one, much more coordinated from WE.
Yeah, but you can see the way that this team operates, right? It's get that CC down, follow up with a whole bunch of burst, and certainly with the performance that Breathe had, being able to pick up these really early kills, then able to find so many of these accelerated shock blasts, he looked damn clean. So, well-deserved MVP. And for WE as a whole, that's going to be a massive sigh of relief for them. Picking up the win against FPX, shutting down that potential 4-game loss streak, and finding themselves back in the right spot.
And it's got to feel good for WE. It's got to feel good for the players, knowing that they are back in solid standing, because even regardless of roster swaps, like, this is still an important team to be able to say that you've taken that W against. We're going to head over to the stage, though, because we've got Wendy standing by with an interview